I was about to say, when you said breaking news, I heard something get knocked over, and I was like, okay, we can actually break stuff for this. Cool.
This is an awful joke. What are you doing?
Hey, it's the end of the episode. I'm allowed.
You were going to do that at the beginning of the episode.
Well, yes, but I, decided to pace myself.
Moving on.
Bit.
Hello, my beautiful poison and fairy type Pokemon. Thank you for joining us on the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 41. I am your host, Oni Dino. With me, I have a rival who's not going to be the champion. It's Galen.
Hey, me and my top 10% Rattata are going straight to the top.
Yeah, I don't think that a Rattata or a Raticate are going to get you anywhere near the championship.
I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make
You
it
need a Beedrill, okay? Beedrill is really the best Pokemon.
My buddy Joey, he called me up. He said we're all good. He's got a really good Rattata too, so he gave me some pointers. I think we're all set. And I trust him. He's a youngster, so he's in with all the hip stuff.
Jesus Christ. So, I said that we have some extra super cool things planned for the Nintendo Everything Podcast in the future, and we have some of that super extra awesome cool stuff happening this week. We have 3 devs from Massive Monster joining us this week. We have Jay, Jimp, and Julian joining us from all the other side of the world. They're currently hanging out in Malaysia. What up, guys?
Hello.
Hey,
how's it going?
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. So the devs over at Massive Monster are going to be releasing a new game on the Nintendo Switch very soon. It's called Never Give Up. Guys, why don't you just tell me a little bit, do a little bit of a brief introduction on who each person is and what you do in the team, and then we'll start talking about your new game.
Fantastic. So I'm James. I'm the artist on the game and done the art and animation.
My name's Jay, and I did the programming on the game.
I'm Julian, and I actually didn't work on this game, but kind of work in Massive Monster on other games and other exciting things.
He just heard we were coming on the podcast and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Actually get him to not come.
We tried locking the doors, but here he is, so sorry about that.
I found a way in.
Sounds like a fair weather friend.
That's basically how I showed up too, so you know what? You're in good company.
I try to kick him off every week. Every week.
Mm-hmm. He does. I have proof.
So guys, why don't you start off by telling me a bit about what is Never Give Up? What is this game and who should be paying attention to it?
So it's basically a skill-based platformer with iterative level design. So every time you beat a level, the level it gets harder and harder. So each time you beat it, it gets more and more challenging. Slowly as you play through, you kind of slowly build up that muscle memory, and by the end, the level's really difficult, but because you've kind of slowly learned through practice and repetition, you can pull off these crazy stunts. We also have this thing in the bottom of the screen. It's a big shiny give up button, so you can actually, if you find the game too hard, you can press the big give up button and progress to the next level, and the game will kind of make fun of you for it, but you can kind of say, we don't want people to get stuck and too frustrated, so it's kind of a way of sort of making it more accessible while also kind of giving it a unique little hook. So yeah, if you like these sort of skill-based platformers, it's definitely going to be one for you, and it works great on the Switch in handheld mode. If you're on the bus or the train and you want to have a quick play of a game, we're really excited to have it on the Nintendo console.
Yeah, it's got a great voiceover by Egoraptor, Arin Hanson, and he makes it so funny. And the game is one of those keyboard-breaking, frustrating kind of things, but it also has a lot of things to make it more accessible, which is kind of really more and more important, I think, at the moment. But the whole thing about the game is as you get more angry, it teases you more. So it just kind of is really good at pushing your buttons, but in a really sort of funny way.
That's awesome.
So anyone who's into speed running or streaming or anything like that, I think it would be. I think it's a really good fit, and you should definitely be looking out for it on August 13th.
Full disclosure, ahead of time, I gave it a bit of a shot myself, and the very first stage is you just jump over a thing and then you get to the door, and I was like, oh, I'm so good at video games. Immediately it was this this like false sense of security for me. And then like as I heard the guy talking and like making all these quips and making fun of me for dying and like kind of making fun of himself for dying too, I was like, man, I recognize this voice. Who the hell is it? And then lo and behold, it's Arin Hanson.
Yeah, we're big fans of the Game Grumps. So it's really cool to get him on board, and definitely adds a lot of character to the game and makes it kind of funny and interesting. And yeah, we're really excited about that.
It's wicked to work with someone like that because you send over a bunch of kind of lines and ideas and you kind of go, this is kind of funny. And then he sends back the audio clips and you're just like, that's brilliant. Like he just kind of adds something to it and he's able to make people laugh. I don't know. It was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a really talented voice actor. And like you said, it's not just about reciting lines, it's about creating the character in it.
Definitely. I think he does some ad-libbing, so some of the lines were like you might be able to spot his sense of humor come through a little bit.
Yeah.
That's great. So why don't you tell me a bit about the visual aesthetic for this game? I noticed that it's got like a stickman kind of guy running around.
Yeah, so we kind of got the stickman figure. The game is actually based on some old Flash games, so we're kind of drawing from that old sort of visual inspiration. We kind of want to make it feel like a continuation of the series, so it kind of is based on those Flash games, but we kind of made it a lot more detailed and sort of clean, and we've got all these different areas that you kind of go through, and there is a story as well. We don't want to give too much away about the story, but it kind of, yeah, there is a narrative there, and not what it seems in the world.
It was quite a challenge for you as the artist, wasn't it, to take like a blue stick man and give it like a personality and like make that pop in like on like Nintendo Switch compared to like other more detailed characters that you're used to seeing. Like,
yeah, we kind of want to keep it bold characters, bold colours, and make everything pop and just kind of not overly detailed, but sometimes less is more, and bright colours and simple shapes.
Yeah, I have to say that like while I was playing it, it was fantastic, and I was realizing all these little details that I normally wouldn't have noticed, but the screen kind of zooms in and out on certain things, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, there's this like blue hue behind my character, and then oh, this makes perfect sense why he has a bright red scarf that he has too, because then you can recognize your character while you're looking ahead at sliding under a buzzsaw or whatever the hell is going on there. And then it gives you a great like control over where your character is, even when you're not directly looking at them. And that's one of the several moments when I was playing that I was like, oh, this is meticulously designed. These people know what they're doing.
Oh, that's so cool that you notice that. You always think like you spend hours putting that stuff in and thinking about it, but you always think no one's going to ever notice this, so what am I doing? But the fact that you did, like, that's awesome.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time adding little touches of polish and things like that. I think with a game like this, which is very fast-paced and kind of twitchy controls, and you want to know exactly where your character is and be able to put him there. So having like a strong contrast between the backgrounds and the actual level and the things that you can interact with is really important. Just so you can, at a glance, very very easily tell where you are.
Because there's all the animated bits and sceneries and bits of characters which are just sort of Easter eggs, like fun things to see, but you immediately know not to interact with them, right?
Yeah, we've kind of hidden a lot of pop culture references and things in the backgrounds and stuff you might not initially notice, but eventually you might. Is that an Ewok behind a tree, or little stuff?
And with games like this, you've really got to let the player do exactly what they think they should be doing, even if they haven't quite done it. So you build in little tricks like, you can still jump just as you fall off a platform, and the camera sort of guesses where you're going, and so it kind of actually goes a little bit ahead to give you a little bit more room, or if you start falling quite fast, it goes down so you can see if there's spikes below you, and all sorts of like little things like that. So it's, even though it's just a stick man, there's a lot going on like under the hood to help make this game as intuitive and as fun as possible and give people the best chance at, they never have to press the that give up button. They can actually get through it all.
That's brilliant. Yeah, those are the little design choices that have to come up when designing your video game, that regardless of whether your player is noticing it or not, they are subconsciously noticing it because it's giving them a better game feel as they go for it.
Yeah, and you feel like you're a better player, so you feel good, and like it's really hard to make a difficult game that's still rewarding and people can feel like they're mastering it and they're good at it, without just like completely crushing their spirits.
I mean, we want to crush their spirits a little bit, though. We want to lightly tread on their spirits.
That's it. Like spirits. You should put that on the game art. That should be the.
That is a brilliant tagline. I honestly think so.
Just lightly crush.
So speaking of crushed spirits, Mr. Galen over here is a sucker for these hard as nails platformers. Galen, what did you think about when you saw all of the trailers and the footage that we have on Nintendo Everything?
The game looks fantastic. Like, I am a sucker for precision platformers, so this game is completely in my wheelhouse. This game looks awesome. This game looks fun, which is definitely something you want when you're kind of getting a little bit too much into the game and you're getting more frustrated at yourself for, oh, no, what are you talking about? I hit that jump button like 3 milliseconds earlier. Yeah. Obviously, my controller's broken. I think putting this on the Switch is a genius idea for you guys, because, I mean, the Switch just begs to have that kind of precision platformers, pick up and go mentality in its games. So, brilliant choice.
As long as people don't throw the console.
Oh, no,
Well, that's what you have the wrist strap. Oh, wait, you can't use the wrist straps on it.
Uh-oh.
We are not responsible if your Switch is
Yeah, just put a
broken.
disclaimer on the bottom of the game.
Yeah, they'll just send it in and they'll say it's a part of the Joy-Con drift issue that everybody's been talking about on the internet. So I wanted to ask you guys a couple of questions about the content that's in the game. As soon as I started playing, I noticed there's all these different levels, and then there's all of these different, I don't know, I want to kind of call it like a mini campaign that are in the different levels that are within the levels. And so then I got to thinking like, geez, how many levels are actually in this game?
Good question. So there are 6 different worlds, and within those worlds there are 5 levels and a boss fight, and each of those levels have 5 to 7 iterations. So if we quickly get a calculator out, pretend to do this in my head, 6 times 5.
About 150.
So if you could edit it so it sounded like I went. That would be great.
Blatantly going to leave that in, aren't they?
Yeah, so there's at least 150 individual rooms. But as we were saying kind of earlier, that each of those levels, when you go in there, you start with kind of a simple room. You start with like a very simple, like jump over this block of spikes. But then you get the same room with some more traps, and it's a bit longer. And that kind of happens 5, 6, 7 times, depending on the level. So the fun thing about that is by the time you get to that 6th, 7th room, you're an absolute ninja because you've mastered those earlier traps and jumping over and sliding and wall jumping here and there, and you look like an absolute badass. It's fantastic. But
Yeah.
So even though there's like 150 rooms, a lot of that is kind of iterating on those original first rooms, and by the time you get to the end, it's a real joy once you've got that muscle memory built up to really like navigate those levels.
Yeah, and we really want to encourage the kind of speed running side of it as well. We built all of the levels with speed running in mind. We have leaderboards and stuff, so we're looking forward to seeing people compete to get the fastest time and shaving the seconds off each other's time. So
we also have an unusual mode for this type of game, which is permadeath.
oh yeah.
So you
Oh
die
my
once,
gosh.
Jeez.
that's it.
If you die, you have to start the whole game again. We're definitely interested to see if anyone can do it.
Yeah, we don't know if it's possible. We haven't done it.
We haven't not done it.
Not that good.
Hopefully when you do it, the game doesn't just crash because we haven't been able to fully test it.
As the programmer, I thought I should just say it definitely won't crash when you beat it on permadeath mode. I promise.
So sort of on that topic, I wanted to talk about balancing the difficulty. With these kinds of games, like, that has to be the most difficult aspect of it. How much time did you guys take fine-tuning these levels?
Oh, years, a long time.
We definitely wanted to kind of, with the designing the levels, you have to practice them over and over and over and over again and kind of play them to a level where you can play them perfectly without dying at all, and because that's how the kind of professionals will be playing it, if you like. Yeah, we kind of, with each level, we wanted to make sure that you could pretty much run constantly and not really have to stand and wait around. But then also, new players can kind of run through as well, and they're accessible to kind of both different standards of players. So it's taken a huge amount of time.
It's actually also the second time that we've made all 150 levels, because we had all these levels done, and then people would come in, and we found that like the levels weren't quite flowing with the movement of the character, because the character we were still changing, so you know, the jump speed, and then how far can you double jump, and how long is the slide. And so as we changed that, we found that like 20 levels suddenly were unplayable because you'd jump and you'd feel a bit cramped in a certain area and stuff. So then we actually had to make the really difficult decision to scrap it all and start them all again. So even though we spent a lot of time, as Jim was saying, refining all these final levels, we also spent a lot of time refining levels that aren't even in the game anymore. So
wow.
The levels are like the star of the show with a game like this, so it was super important to get those right.
Yeah, I think it was worth it though, that extra time. Definitely happier now. They're really fun to play through, and especially once you get to a high level and you can kind of run through, it was definitely worth it. If a little painful.
Yeah. A bit like the game. Worth it, if not a little painful.
Nice, another good tagline.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I can't imagine like how much have you guys yourselves played of this game?
Yeah, I mean my Steam hours on the game is like 680 hours, and that's kind of only in the last not even year, I think.
That's since we've been staging on Steam. Obviously, before we were using sort of Steam to share it. Well, you know, before the development build, we were doing that individually and just sharing the build over Dropbox. So it's kind of thousands of hours each.
Like when you're trying to build the levels so you can speedrun them, and you kind of have, let's say, a spinning axe a minute into the level, you kind of have to plan ahead with that and make sure it times up so you can run straight under it from the very beginning of the level, if that makes it. All the timings sync up, but you have to sort of plan ahead. It's really, in fact, probably doesn't even make any sense, but it's really difficult.
Yeah. So we hope that the game again kind of looks simple and easy to understand, but there's a lot of stuff happening under the hood, and a lot of stuff we spent a long time trying our best to get right. And but we're super pumped about how it's all turned out, and we feel like these levels are really fun. They are definitely like a good challenge, but they're also really rewarding. And of course, you can give up any time you want, but the game will make fun of you. So when you give up, you go to the screen and the game will tease you relentlessly for it, but you can then move on to the next level. So that's like a huge part of, you know, this new kind of wave of accessibility that's becoming really important in games like these. We want everyone to enjoy it, and if you do get sick of it, we don't want you to get stuck forever and throw the game away and never play it. We want you to be able to, you know, just take the teasing, you know, with a grain of salt, and then move on to the next level and beat that one and feel better about yourself.
That's awesome. That's almost like a bit of a meta experience and like an exercise in your own personal pride to be like, okay, how prideful am I really?
It's like pushing those buttons on people. The game is totally designed to make you feel like your pride is at stake when you're doing this.
We were watching Julian sit and play yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had literal physical pain every time he died.
How was it for you, Julian, playing it?
I'm not really a good gamer at all. So if you've seen our other game, the Adventure Pals, it's like a much more casual platformer, and that's kind of like much more at my wheelhouse. But yeah, I definitely got into the levels. There was a lot of swearing though, but I kind of managed to get through, so that's great.
Our innocent little ears were tainted by
it. Going back to like what you were saying about the swinging axe, that in particular, I noticed that where I was like, you know, running through a stage, I had died a bajillion times, and then I was getting to the one axe part several times over, and I was like, wow, I'm able to just like jump and glide under this like with perfect timing. Is this actually like timed out? Did these guys really go through all of the pain to, you know, plan out the timing on this if you run through it all correctly, just because you're going to be running through it over and over again? And it's so awesome to hear that you guys actually did do that.
Oh yes, yeah. So we kind of approached the level design. Me and Jay both play guitar, so we kind of approached the level design in the way that you would learning how to play a song on guitar. So like if you kind of learn the buttons in the right tempo, in the right way, you can kind of run straight through it. And yeah, just making sure that all those bits, when you get to them, if you're running at the sort of maximum speed that they will be at the right point, that you can just kind of run run under them, because that was one of the things we found with the earlier levels that we kind of scrapped, was that there was a lot of standing and waiting around, waiting for a saw to rotate to the right point so you could run under it, which isn't very fun.
Particularly if you die, you have to do it 20 times.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a huge amount of work to make sure that those things did line up, but I think it's really important in the feel of, especially when you're playing the game at a high level. If you're just playing the levels for the first time, you might kind of want to stand and wait for the right point that you can run under and kind of give yourself a little bit more breathing room. But once you learn the levels really well, you want to just keep running and sliding and jumping and kind of feel really cool.
It really ties into that sort of muscle memory and again, like feeling like a total badass ninja, right? Like as you get through it and you get more familiar with it. So yeah, it's definitely like Guitar Hero style game, really. That's what it is
at the high level. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Something like that is, I think, so important to gaming. Like when I play like Mario Maker level or something like that, that's like really highly rated or whatever. And then there's all these parts that you have to wait for because of like the switch, has a timer on it and you have to wait for the switch to end. And it's just like infuriating when you've died a million times over and you're like, no, I just want to get through this part that I've already done. Like, I've already mastered this, right?
Yeah, it should be hard, but it should be fun. So if you're just waiting, that's not hard and it's not fun.
Yeah, that's the absolute killer of game flow.
Yeah.
I guess sort of like pulling it all back around, it's like you can watch Arin Hanson on Game Grumps being super upset by those very things in Mario Maker, and here he is voicing your game.
Yeah, we do hope he picks the game up and plays it, and we can kind of watch him getting angry at himself, getting angry.
I feel like that's probably not a tall order for him. So talking a bit about like the Switch specifically, what made you guys want to bring it to the Switch other than hearing that indies are totally killing it on the Nintendo Switch?
As Julian mentioned, we actually had a game come out just over a year ago called The Adventure Pals, and that was on, and that got to the Switch on sort of 13th month of the Switch's life cycle, I guess. And it was just fantastic for us, and it was just such a lovely platform, and it was so cool to see the game on there. That we just felt like we'd love to be there again with our new game, and we just really love the Switch. We all have Switches, we all play the Switch, and we just think it's just a fantastic platform, and it's great to work with as well.
I think, for me personally, I just always really wanted to have a game on the Nintendo console. Like the first console I ever got was an N64, so actually getting a game that I've worked on a Nintendo console is super exciting, and there's just something about just being able to sit and play it on a handheld as well. Like it just feels amazing, and we love the Switch as a console.
The other piece was that this game in particular, we talked a lot about, it's divided up into rooms. So if you've got your handheld and you're on the bus, you could play a room or two and drop in, drop out, and just like turn the Switch off, turn it back on, and you're back in. And so it's great for like short dose play. And we think the Switch is like the perfect console for that, because if you're waiting to turn on your other consoles, you've got to kind of wait for all that to power up, and you've got to load your save and blah blah blah. Whereas with the Switch, you just like pick it up, press the button, and off you go, and you're in the game. Particularly if you don't close it, and it's just great. Particularly if you're getting frustrated, you could put it down for a while and then come back to it and actually finish that room, later on. And we just felt like that was a really good home for the game.
Yeah, so if you see that crazy guy sat on the bus screaming into his lap, he's probably playing Never Give Up.
Yeah, there's like a really good chance he's either playing like Never Give Up or maybe Dark Souls, but probably Never Give Up.
Definitely.
And, that's like one of the perfect selling points of the Nintendo Switch too, is just like how quickly that game or that console closes games and opens games. And I mean, when you were talking, turning on like your PS4 or something, and so like while your PS4 is booting up, you turn on your Switch and then you play some Never Give Up, and then you don't even bother playing the PS4, Galen, how many times have you done that?
Just this week, actually, I turned on Destiny, and while it was loading, I picked up my Switch and went through a match in Fire Emblem, put it down, started playing Destiny, got to the next loading screen, picked the Switch back up, and was just playing the two games like parallel to each other.
It's like double fisting, but with games. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Maximum gaming.
Can't even waste a second.
Yeah.
That was just going to round it off by saying, yeah, Never Give Up is the perfect game to do that. Dropping in, dropping out. Turn it on while your other games console's powering up, and then forgetting about your other game console and just playing Never Give Up.
Exactly.
So obviously this game has, lots of inspirations with so many different kinds of pixel perfect platforming. Other than the Flash games that you had mentioned before, which I do want to get back to because that's something that I thought about when I was playing it, what other inspirations did you have when you all were creating this game?
I think just in general, like the kind of, we've always wanted our games to feel really juicy and have that good game feel. So spent a lot of time doing that, and then I guess for specific games like Super Meat Boy was a big inspiration, but that game feels very kind of slippery and slidey, like the character slides around quite a lot, where we wanted to kind of give a lot more accuracy to the movement. It feels quite different. And then I guess Celeste is the other one in more recent years, which kind of which was quite an inspiration.
That encouraged us to make the game more accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they did a great job in doing that. I think like it's tricky because like the Flash game series I think predates the original Super Meat Boy prototype that they put out. So we kind of were drawing on that, like I don't know how long ago the first Give Up series game came out, which we didn't work on, but we were definitely kind of using that as our blueprint. We worked on the Give Up 2, but we didn't work on the first one. We are working with the original creator of the series, a guy called Tasselfoot, who we were working with on this game. So we had a pretty established blueprint. But yeah, certainly Super Meat Boy is the classic for the series, and then Celeste helped us decide that it was a good idea to be more inclusive in creating a game like that. They should have a great way to make a difficult game that can be accessible if people choose it to play it in that way.
Yeah, we're definitely not a believer of the kind of forcing everyone to play in a super difficult. Not everyone can play that, but we want as many people to be able to enjoy the game as possible. So even though we do have like a setting on the game where you can just turn on infinite jumps and you can just jump infinitely, just because why not? I mean, maybe most people won't play with that, and if you're like a super hardcore gamer and you want to be able to speed run and you're like pro gamer or whatever, you're probably not going to turn that on, but maybe some people might want to. They might struggle a little bit. So
choose your own challenge level.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But have fun with it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I was really impressed as soon as I booted up the game and I saw all the different accessibility options too. It wasn't just like, increase the size of the text, which by the way, super needed in video games, but like you had like the, length of the scarf, and you had all of these other just so many different things. I was like, that's so great. And I'm so glad that you call it accessibility options too. That's such a important thing for modern games and moving forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always like more that we would like to do. I guess we kind of had loads of other ideas of options that we'd like to add. Like it'd be really cool to do one where you could just slow the game speed down and stuff. We just haven't had time to do that, and we've had technical limitations, but we kind of did as much as we could, and maybe we can add more in the future.
Yeah, going forward as Massive Monster, we definitely always want to be as inclusive as possible with everything we do.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I was just about to ask you guys a bit about that too, with content that maybe didn't make it into the game, or something you were like, we should have done this, but we just didn't have the time to fine tune it or whatever. Is there any aspect of the game that you just would love to see make it into the game other than slow-mo? You can't say that again, otherwise it's cheating.
I think we would love to add a level editor to the game, and we kind of did play around with that a little bit early on. It just ended up being a huge amount of work to sort of make sure that people were making levels that weren't kind of impossible to beat, or there's so many things that you don't think of that you have to include and limit players, and just making everything really accessible and also working well on the Switch controller. Mario Maker does a great job of that, and so we did spend quite a lot of time trying to figure that out, but we kind of ran out of time. But potentially that's something we could add later on. We're still figuring that out, like post.
If we can get it right, then it would be brilliant. But because otherwise, I think the thing we had was a bit of a monster. It was pretty hard to understand for people coming into it, and it almost kind of did more harm than good. We also have a feature where you could race the developer time, but that we didn't quite have time to get that in as well. But we wanted to have that as like an even harder challenge level, because I mentioned Tasselfoot, and he's he's a serious speedrunner. The original designer of the series. I don't know how he does it really. He's kind of superhuman. Finger agility levels are off the charts. But trying to race him, we just couldn't figure out when that would be a good time to include it in the game flow itself. But as people play the game and we see how people interact with it, maybe that's something we can think about later as well.
Yeah, it might be a good thing to add sort of post-launch, just kind of give players that have already beaten all the levels like an extra layer of challenge. So in the game we do actually have so you beat each level, and then there's also like a fast time that you have to beat as well to kind of get the extra star on the level. And then I guess the beat the developer times would be like an even more extreme version of that, where you have to beat the Tasselfoot's kind of quickest time. But we'll see. We'll
let people beat it on permadeath before we make it harder.
I can't wait to see if someone does it.
In particular, the level editor, like, holy crap, that is a gigantic undertaking. I can't believe, like, you were even sort of playing around with it in the early stages. That's a whole nother game, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we do kind of have it in place because we had to build an editor to make all the levels in the game, for us to make the levels. But it's just, so we do have an editor, but it's kind of a bit messy, and it's just, you know, we kind of spent a long time teaching ourselves, and because we built it, we know how to use it. But if someone else was to use it, they'd probably just break down into a puddle of tears. Like, it's a little bit, I mean, it's kind of halfway there, but we'll see. We'll see if that ever actually sees the light of day. It's definitely not a sort of thing we're 100% committed to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that does sound like a big headache. I can assure you that both Galen and I would be in the puddle of tears group over there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, the game's already going to make you in a puddle of tears just from playing it. We don't want too many tears.
But you know, it did sort of soften the blow with the humor that you've added to the game too. Like, I found myself just like ready to be like, oh god damn it, but then right before that, then like, you know, Egoraptor says something hilarious. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And then just it cut the tension immediately. It was great.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It does. And there's all like these fully animated cutscenes in as well. And there's lots of moments to kind of give you a breath of fresh air and kind of, clear your palate a little bit. So yeah, although we kind of joke that it's really rage-inducing, we've done a lot to make it a funny rage rather than a real hatred, vitriolic spite towards the game. You know, it's more of a kind of, this is driving me crazy, you crazy guys.
And you can always give up, you know, if you get too frustrated. I think that's the point.
Yeah. But yeah, we definitely, humor was a huge part of the game design, and getting that in there, and voices and things to just kind of distract you and break it up a little bit, break the tension up a little bit.
Yeah, see, Galen, you can always give up.
I'm supposed to never give up.
Maybe that's what the game like subtitle should be. Never give up, but you can always give up.
Don't feel bad if you do. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, like this is an awesome podcast, but really we're having a fantastic marketing brainstorm here. All these like, phrases we're coming up with.
Go ahead, write it off on your taxes or whatever you need to do. And then feel free to send me money through PayPal for all of the services that I'm providing you. Yeah.
You know what? I'll give this one to you guys for free. If you do decide you're going to come up with some expansions for it, possible names, Never Gonna Give Up. Never Give Up. The expansion, Never Surrender. Just saying, you got some stuff there.
I thought you were rickrolling us there. Yeah, never gonna give you up.
Yeah.
And so lastly, I kind of wanted to go back to the Flash Origins that you guys were talking about. As soon as I started playing, I was like, oh my god, this reminds me of... Galen, do you remember these videos that we used to watch before? It was like these Stickman fighting Flash videos that we would... Like, I don't remember. What were we, like middle school maybe? Which is, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. It's right after primary school.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just like watching those nonstop. And then, so as soon as I started playing Never Give Up, I was like, oh man, this kind of reminds me of this. I kind of wish there was also like a fighter version of this too.
That's the sequel. Yeah, no, that's definitely sort of as a studio. That's we started out kind of making Flash games and making stuff on Newgrounds, and I guess just like you guys, like playing those games, watching those movies, and kind of then as teenagers we sort of started making our own games and our own movies, and then sort of had some kind of mid-range success doing that, and then kind of decided to make real games, in inverted commas. Yeah, and so Adventure Pals was our first console game, and Never Give Up is now our second. So that's definitely kind of our background as a studio. Never Give Up in particular is based on Give Up and Give Up 2, which were games put out by our publisher, Armour Games.
Which you can still go and play. If you Google them now, they're out there.
Yeah, and those games were kind of picked up by all these big streamers, PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye and Markiplier. They've all got videos of them screaming into their microphone playing these games. And this is kind of the spiritual successor. So those were kind of free Flash games, and now this is a sort of fully fledged console game. This kind of runs at 60 FPS and full screen, and it's kind of much bigger, more content, much more polished.
It's the game it was always supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably we crossed paths several different times in our lives, because Galen and I were pretty active on Newgrounds, well before like the advent of YouTube and everything, where people were putting on their creations on Newgrounds. So we probably ended up passing ways several different times without even knowing it.
That's great.
Yeah, so many people did, and I think like so many developers as well kind of cut their teeth on Newgrounds. Like Edmund McMillan and the Super Flash brothers who made Snipper Clips. Also, they're kind of friends of ours who they went on to make Snipper Clips, which is an awesome Nintendo game. But they started out making stuff on Newgrounds as well.
And Armour Games, of course, because we are working with Armour Games, and they're our publisher for this game, and they still are a fantastic Flash portal in other games. But yeah, they created that series with Tasfoot, and with them we're able to create these full console releases, which is fantastic. So we still are in that kind of Flash world, but it's just kind of moved into the retail game.
But don't think the game is it doesn't feel like a Flash game. This is it's a real game. It's just that's kind of where our roots are. So
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I started playing it, like, of course, I didn't think of, Flash games in that way. I just thought of, like, the aesthetic of the Stickman that, is kind of like the wide and, like, fat arms, that kind of chunkiness to the stick guy, which sounds, like, ironic. But, yeah, I mean, there's so much detail. I saw, like, a bunch of different references to certain things. I'm like, wait a second, how is this going to come into play later? Like, this is crazy. There's so much little detail added to this game. Like, this is beyond more polished than it even has any sense being. This is really exciting game.
Wow, it's high praise indeed. Thank you very much. And some of the artwork is still created in the tool Flash, isn't it?
Used Adobe Animate to draw some of the stuff, which kind of gives it that vectory, clean feel. I kind of feel like Flash is almost a dirty word these days, but but actually it was a great tool, and I'm sure you guys and many of the listeners had loads of fun playing those early Flash games. It's kind of a shame how people almost use it as a derogatory thing now, but actually so many people learn how to make games, and so many people played loads of fun games back in those Flash games, the good old days.
There's no way we'd be making games now if it wasn't for the Flash scene, or like I wouldn't have learned to program had it not been for Flash. And this game comes out of that legacy, but like brings it into kind of a new generation, or a new current world, I guess, of
the 22nd century.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make sense, but it still rescued me, so I appreciate it.
So before we go into our news segment, is there any final thing that you guys want to say specifically to the Nintendo community, or any like little secret that you can share that maybe you haven't really told anybody before about Never Give Up?
So there is kind of this little secret function that we built into the game.
World exclusive.
World exclusive news bomb. Nice. So it's never actually taught in the game, but it's kind of a little feature we put in for the speedrunners, where you can kind of do this super dash move. I'm not going to explicitly say how you do it, but it's intentional, but we never teach the player how to do it. But if you kind of do a certain special button press kind of thing, you can do a big super dash, which gives you like a double distance jump, which for the high level play will kind of let people it will open up a whole new kind of
route through the levels.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't tell you the the code combination of buttons to press, but there are only 2 buttons that you can press, jump and dash. So, so good luck figuring out that code.
You know what? I'm gonna start, like, as soon as I get my hands on the game, I'm gonna be like quarter circle roll forward, forward down roll forward.
No, they said the fighting game is the sequel, Galen. Get it straight.
Yeah. And the other thing to mention is that it comes out August 13th, so we really hope people find it on launch and enjoy it and start having fun with it. And be careful with your Switch. Don't throw it if you get frustrated. That's what we'll leave you with.
Well, it's all super exciting. I'm really glad that we could sit down and have this really in-depth discussion and a little bit of world premiere information on Never Give Up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to share it with everybody and really excited for our listeners to get their hands on it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's really nice to talk about it as well, and we really appreciate you having on and talking about this crazy little game we've made. So we really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, the passion just like comes right out of your words, so it's super prevalent.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's talk about some Pokemon. What do you say?
Yeah, Pokemon.
So this week we got a whole bunch of different news on the upcoming Pokemon game, Pokemon Sword and Shield for Nintendo Switch. We got actually quite a bit. We got like new Pokemon, new Galarian forms, which are unique to the region. What the hell else did we get? I need to write it down. We got new rivals. We got a new antagonist team, Pokejobs.
We got the team. Mm-hmm.
So, Galen.
Yes.
We saw a couple of new Pokemon. Which is your favorite? And there's only one correct answer.
Obviously, it is the Pokemon that I'm going to nickname Dandy Blaze, because that is hilarious.
What's the Pokemon's real name?
It's Galarian Wheezing.
Okay, that's a close second. The real answer is Morpeko.
Morpeko has an hangry mode. That makes me so happy and frightened at the same time.
No, Morpeko is the best. He does a little dash and he goes in his little hamster ball and he's electric and he just goes around the world. He's so perfect.
I've never seen anything so cute but so angry as well.
Yeah, so, okay, Morpeko is electric and dark type, but not at the same time. It seems like he shifts between either one type or the other, and he's got 2 totally different looks. So when he's in that dark mode, he looks so angry, and he seriously looks like he's giving, like, double birds to everybody who's looking at him. And then he's got his hangry mode and his full belly mode. I assume that that's what's determining his electric and dark.
Mm-hmm. That is so funny. And I'm wondering if this is something that can actually change mid-battle. Like, he goes hangry, and then if he consumes one of the berries that he's holding, he goes into full belly mode. Like, I'm really hoping they include some sort of mechanic where that works that way.
Yeah, but I mean, if they do, then suddenly he has, like, this totally different mechanic advantage over all of the other Pokemon that don't switch types, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that is fine. I want to see more stuff like this. And if this is the Pokemon where they start to, like, test the waters and see if this is something that people would be interested in, like, is this a Pokemon that people would use because of that mechanical advantage? I believe that's where we can see an evolution, no pun intended, in the Pokemon battling system. You know, give me more Pokemon that can change stuff midway battle.
You know, RPG mechanic-wise, like, I totally agree with you on this, but, like, in terms of how I consume Pokemon, I'm just like, no, I want to use the electric hamster because he looks like he's got little pockets with the food pellets and he looks kind of dumb.
Wait, you consume Pokemon?
Oni does.
It's how I get all of my energy. It's how I get my pee-pee up. Clearly, Galen doesn't get his pee-pee up because he doesn't have any elixirs, right?
Well, and I was about... Yeah. Nope.
I
don't know what PP is, but I hope it's not what I think it is.
It definitely is not what you think it is. It is... God, that must sound super awful to you guys over there. I consume Pokemon and that's how I get my PP up. Yeah, perfect. No, so PP is like the what is it? Like the move magic
It's
meter.
like PowerPoints. It's like PowerPoints. It's how many times you can use a move.
Yeah. So like the really strong attacks, you can only use that like 5 times, and so you have 5 PP left, and that means you have 5 uses left, basically.
Sure it is. No. Okay, that makes sense. I think more of these Pokemon should have top hats. This Weezer looks really cool.
Yeah. I was just
Dander
about to
blaze it
ask
up.
you guys, what do you think about some of these designs that we were seeing this week?
I think they're cool. I like the Badger Boy.
Which one was that?
I really like the black and white, and he's got like the red eyes, and he looks kind of cool but kind of evil and badass. And yeah.
So this Galarian area must be kind of dark and interesting. Must be a kind of cool place.
Well, it is set in the UK, so
Maybe that's why we like it so much. The top hats really appeal. More Pokemon should wear top hats, I feel.
Start a petition.
I think that's cool though. You know, they got the kind of almost Victorian influence with the wheezing, like the smog of London.
And then the badges as well. Yeah, no, we like it. We're in favour.
They seem like they're really kind of expanding the personality of some of them as well.
yeah.
Also, on the whole, I'm really glad that they're bringing back the concept of region-specific forms to it.
Me
because, like, I really liked the Alohan ones that they made, and I just feel like this is a great addition and great thing to continue on.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you remember how terrifying, what a nightmare the Alolan Executor was? With its, like, it looks like something out of, like, a Lovecraftian novel with its huge neck and, like, terrifying face.
I was more worried about trying to figure out what version had the Alohan Vulpix was, because that is my that's my jam right
Me
there.
too!
I'll take that.
That's the reason that I bought Pokemon Sun and I still haven't played it. It's sitting over there. The Ice Vulpix is an adorable little boy that we must always protect. But this Galarian, what the hell? How do you even say that word? Galarian.
Galarian Wheezing.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Galarian
yeah.
Wheezing, who looks like he would probably push a small child down and say, "Boy, what are you doing in my way?"
Yeah, so his head is like a chimney smokestack, right? Like we talked about, but it's also like a top hat, and it also looks like an old-timey wedding hat or something like that.
It's perfect.
And then it also looks like a bong, too. There's some excellent pictures that Galen sent to me recently of a
They're so
Pokemon
great.
trainer using the Galarian Wheezing totally appropriately.
Yep. Like I said, when I catch mine, I'm gonna name it Dandy Blaze.
Oh, that's really good!
Dandy Blaze.
That's a really good name for it.
Right? I'm really hoping there's enough characters to actually put that in.
So I did want to mention, though, there is something new that we haven't really seen before, where it's a previous existing Pokemon, but now it has a unique evolution for just this region. That's the Galarian Linoone. I don't actually know how to say that Pokemon's name, but it's got a unique evolution called Obstagoon. Did you see this one, Galen?
Oh, wait, you're talking about Zigzagoon, right?
No, Linoonu, or whatever the hell it's called. They introduced
looking
two
this back up again.
Galarian versions. They introduced a Zigzagoon, which is an adorable little boy, but pushing him aside, there's a Linoan one, and he looks like a little skunk.
Okay.
And then he has
Yeah,
a unique
I've seen
evolution
that one.
here called Obstagoon that I think looks like awful. I think it looks really bad.
Click save.
Yeah, it's not the best design. Kind of looks like he's wearing spandex.
Very glam rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like a member of Kiss.
Oh, well, see, now that makes me like him a little bit more.
Gene Simmons.
Oh, this
Yeah. He's got his tongue out and everything.
Yeah.
I think that humanoid versions of like evolved Pokemon are really boring and like really lazy design. I think there's way too much of those. Honestly, to me, this Obstagoon looks like those websites where you combine two different Pokemon together, then you get a new ugly one that looks like shit.
I mean, I've seen some of those that are better than this.
I just looked it up, and I do want to clarify that Linoone is the evolved form of Zigzagoon.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it goes Zigzagoon, Lagoon, and then Linoone, and then it goes into Obstagoon.
Oh, why would you ever do that? Just keep it always as a Zigzagoon, just like you keep a Pikachu.
Well, everybody probably did that, and well, that's why nobody knew this until just now.
Well, that's just a bunch of waste. That's a waste of artist designing time. But then we also got some new rivals. We see a rival named Marnie and also Bade. And Marnie, by the way, is like one of the best like Irish sounding names ever. Like I think Moira and Marnie are like perfect. Like, oh, I got 3 daughters, Marnie, Moira, and Marnie too. So what did you think of Marnie's design, Galen?
I was more interested in. I'm trying to. Hang on, Marnie was the.
You don't
one
even
in
know
all,
what
with
she
the black
looks
hair,
like.
Right? No, I want to make sure I get this right. Marnie was the one in the black hair, right?
Marnie is girl.
Okay, yeah, I like her. I like that character, and I like what I like what they were kind of doing with linking her up with the rival team that was going along with her. Like, I love that your rival now actually has a hype squad behind her.
Yes.
That's hilarious to me.
Yeah, so sort of jumping off of that, so we see Marnie, and she's kind of like calm and calculated, but then we also see Team Yell, who, this is hilarious and definitely unintended, but they're a toxic fan base, which is perfect for a Pokemon game.
Ooh. Is that unintentional?
Gosh, I mean, I would love to say that it is, but I just logically can't really say that this was intended. But I'd love to hear that like someone come out and say, yep, this was intended.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah, so they desperately want Marnie to become the Pokemon champion, so they're obstructing all of the other challengers, and then they shout to distract their opponents, which is why they call themselves Team Yell.
Mm-hmm. And I love the description. They take over hotel lobbies, prevent challengers from accessing transportation, even shout and distract opponents during battle. They are quick to appear, showing their support with Marnie print towels and horns. So I'm seriously just waiting to play the game and just hearing bow, 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 bow in the background. So
yeah, like that's just like a perfect foundation for like some good, I don't even know if it's really character writing, but it's like group writing of the group that is Team Yell, because you can put so many different like comedic situations in there, like every time that you encounter Marnie. And
I have to be honest, this is the first time in a while that I've actually kind of been invested in the enemy team as like a personality or an identity.
Really?
Like, yeah, like I could not tell you anything past Team, I want to say Magma and whatever the other one was, because I didn't play that version. Like, I could not tell you what the actual teams were or what made them unique.
Really?
But yeah, but Team Yell, like the entire concept of it seems so different, because all the other ones were like, hey, we want to liberate Pokemon, or hey, we want to steal Pokemon and use them for things. No, these guys are just an annoying fan base, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I do like that angle a whole lot more than anything other that they had before.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about like what Pokemon games you have played, or if you remember like Team Rocket or any of them?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I personally definitely played the first one, Red and Blue. I'm actually, my girlfriend's called Jessie and I'm called James, so we call ourselves Team Rocket.
That's
awesome.
Brilliant!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Not a fan.
But yeah, no, I definitely have I haven't played any of the more recent ones, but I kind of, grew up loving Pokemon and Pokemon cards and like the original kind of golden, red, blue, gold, silver, the classic ones. And played a bit of Pokemon Go, which is really cool as well. But yeah, like I do think these new ones look cool though. Like, I like this kind of punk rock Team Yell.
I like the new direction. Yeah.
They kind of almost the new world's themed around like London, right, or Britain, so it's like that kind of 70s punk influence, maybe.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought of
I
that.
don't know if that's actually what they're going for, but I think that's really cool. Yeah, I like these guys. They kind of look like Rick and Morty characters to me, but yeah. So I maybe I'll pick this one up. It does look really cool. I really like the new Pokemon designs, Oblagoon aside.
Yeah, I do have to agree that like the Pokemon designs, I think for the most part have been pretty strong. There's definitely been a few that I'm not like that big of a fan of, like that Obstagoon one, and then whatever the water turtle guy was. I thought he was just kind of boring. But the other designs I think are great, like Alchemy, the one that's like a little strawberry shortcake, and then of course Mopico, so precious.
And the rabbit ones looks really cool. Like the starter.
Oh yeah, Score Bunny.
Yeah.
He's really cool. And this little monkey dude.
So if you guys had to choose one of the starters, there's Score Bunny, the fire starter. There's, oh god, what is it? Grookey, the little chimp leaf Pokemon. And then there's Sobble, the water like lizard Pokemon. Which would you guys probably choose right off the top of your heads?
Oh, Griggy the whole way. Come on. Look at him. He's just like, he just wants like a little pat.
Nah, I'm all about this fire bunny, flame bunny guy.
And just so so I'm not a tiebreaker, I like the other one.
No,
yeah.
He's rubbish. Look at him.
Is that the green one or the blue one?
The blue one.
Yeah, he's cute. He's like a little newt, He needs...
Yeah. And he has like social anxiety and he hides in the water.
I think that's something all gamers can relate to. So, I'm happy with my choice.
Oni, have you decided which one you're going to start with?
Honestly, I keep changing it up. Like when I first saw it, I thought it was Sobble, but now I'm switching over to Grookey, and Score Bunny honestly is warming up my heart. So, well, that was totally not intended, Jesus. Shut up.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, I'm not really sure. What about you, Galen?
There is only one true correct answer, and that is Yamper.
He's not a starter!
I don't care. Give me my little electric corgi. I will take that thing to Victory Road.
So you're just gonna choose the scraps, and then you're just gonna, like, once you get a Yamper, you're just gonna throw your first one in the trash? Like stickers?
Yeah, pretty much.
I've just looked up Weeple, and I gotta say, I'm super happy to go with Sobble if I get to be Weeple. He looks so derpy. He looks amazing.
I don't know if these are legit.
I haven't seen what he looks like. Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think, is this an official image? I don't know, but it's just
Doesn't
cracking me
look
up.
official.
Very derpy.
It's very official. You can see the DeviantArt watermark in the bottom corner. Totally official.
Busted. Yeah, okay. I did say I didn't know what I'm talking about, so sorry.
No problem.
Hadouken!
So let's jump on over to a little bit more news. Just very quickly, Galen and I want to be total shills for the Grandia HD Collection launching later this week on August 16th. Galen and I both played these games so much when we were younger. Galen is a huge fan of the first. I love the second one. And the collection is finally coming HD to Nintendo Switch. And they're also going to do some updates and release the second one on Steam as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for this. I've got a Japan flight coming up, and I cannot wait to just, like, bust this open and play this for 12 hours without interruption. Switch isn't going to last that long, but I'll just be staring there at a blank screen, just pretending.
No, just get a portable battery. Have any of you guys from Massive Monster played the Grandia games before?
I don't think so.
If it's coming out August 16th, I'll have spent my money on Never Give Up, which is coming out on the 15th.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to have to buy another eShop card or, just do a couple more chores.
Exactly. I need more pocket money.
It looks cool though, old school classic. Like it's always good when they bring out these older games that can be played by a new generation or people that haven't played it before. So I do think that's cool.
Yeah.
What would you how would you describe it to someone who's never played it before? Like what's how would you give us a crash course in Grandia?
Think of a kind of traditional RPG, very story heavy, that is focused on, it's got an anime aesthetic to it, but the battle system kind of kicks it up a notch and uses a timed gauge in conjunction with selecting your attacks and everything like that in a traditional menu type style. It kind of blends it how like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy does with the active time gauge, where you're kind of timed with what attacks you're making and what moves you want to make. But it adds a whole new level of strategy to it too, because the attacks that you make on your enemy can also like delay their time as well, so you can actually stagger things to kind of get an advantage on your side. So
it sounds like a brilliant like thing to add that would add layers and layers of complexity in a really interesting way. I mean, in terms of design, I mean, that sounds really interesting. I think you sold it to me.
Yeah.
I just want to add a bit onto what Galen was saying with that. It just makes every single turn, because even though it is a turn-based game, it makes every turn totally unique. So the battle system never gets boring. You're never just mashing A to attack or whatever. You're paying attention to, where is my enemy on their battle gauge? Like, do I need to do this kind of hit because it'll cancel their attack? Or do I need to do like a defend, which you almost never do in RPGs, right? Like a defend to make sure that you're preparing because they're going to attack before me. And it's great. It's honestly one of the best battle systems that is definitely underutilized.
If you played Child of Light at all, it kind of uses a similar battle system to that. But I was going to say, but this also came out in like original PlayStation era when it first launched. So this was back in the time when developers were more, hey, let's just throw it against a wall and see what sticks.
Sounds like us.
Sometimes literally, and never give up, right?
Yeah.
I enjoyed those blood splatters. I really did.
Oh, thanks.
We actually toned them down. It was,
Did you really?
Yeah, it was a bit full on first. But...
I would love to see what they looked like beforehand. Maybe, perhaps in the future we could see like an accessibility feature for those who just enjoy their gore, you know?
Just a slider
just
to
a red
control
screen.
the amount of blood.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Inaccessibility feature. Just picture a red screen, and that's it. That's what it used to be like.
Mamma mia!
And then lastly, what we're going to talk about this week is the big three. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are all reportedly working on a new policy that will require loot box odds to be disclosed on their systems. So this is a pretty interesting one because, of course, loot boxes, microtransactions, all of that, big topic in modern gaming. In the past generation in particular, it's become almost standard, which is like the most depressing thing for me to say, being super anti-microtransaction. It's almost standard in so many AAA video games like Call of Duty, even story-driven first-person games like Assassin's Creed. So ultimately, this is sort of taking a good step forward to be more transparent about what it is you're purchasing.
Yeah.
Personally, we don't know... Well, hold on. Before I go to personally, we don't know what this is going to entail just yet. We've just sort of heard that allegedly all three are working on this. Personally, I don't think that this is actually going to benefit the most at-risk people with the addictive personalities, because they don't really make purchases when they're thinking about the odds being in their favor or not. When they, buy a loot box, they just have, a gambling addiction, basically. It's the same social problem as a gambling addiction. So this isn't going to suddenly make them think, oh yeah, maybe I'll actually buy food this week. So Galen, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm right there with you, and I think this is a great step forward. Kind of getting this information out in the open and accessible to people, I think is a great start for people to kind of objectively look at what are they spending their money on. With that said, I do have some technical questions, as in, how exactly is this information going to be displayed? Is this something like, if you want to find out the exact odds, go to a website? Is this going to be something that's displayed in-game itself? And if so, how? Like, how do you display a loot box itself? And how do you somehow... Not that I am defending loot boxes at all, but I can understand how one of the appeals of it is if you don't look up what all the things are that you are getting in like in the loot box. Like you don't know a specific costume or emote or anything like that.
You're going right to the surprise mechanic aspect of it, aren't you?
Kind of, yeah. Like I can understand someone making the argument of how do they make it so that these details are not spoiling the content of what's in the game itself.
Oh my god.
Again,
I know you're not defending it, but like the slime coming out of your mouth right now, I just want to like smack you in the face with it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is something that can defend against this or anything like that, because this is a good thing. I want this information out there. I want them to kind of put it forward. But again, this is a technical question that I feel needs to kind of be addressed, because I'm trying to think of something else. Like, card games don't necessarily have this sort, and that's the most comparable thing that I can think of right now.
Yeah.
If I open up a pack of like Magic the Gathering, there's the rarity system that goes along with it. I know that you've got your common, uncommon, rares, and then your mythic cards, which are, I think it's 1 in 16 is the chance of being able to pull one of those. But
well, I think that's the kind of information that needs to be out there, is like the category of what you would be getting. Like, are you going to be getting a bronze level loot or a silver level? Like, I don't even know because I don't play those games. Like, whatever the hell those things are in whatever category. And I think that, like, to sort of answer your question on, like, how is it going to be displayed, like, physically and on your UI, I think it could be easily be like, you know, you press X to view the whole thing and then it pops up a new menu, just like an end user agreement. Like when you're starting up like a new program on your PC or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like this is very much a terms of conditions type thing where it's, you know, you scroll through and about 3/4 of the way through, you finally see the little bit that explains all those odds. Which, okay, yeah, you're displaying them, but unless you're looking for it, it's not going to grab anybody's attention, kind of like let people know of what this issue is.
Well, sure, but that's just like cigarettes, right? Where it's like it says that it'll kill you, but you have to look on the back of the package or something. You know what I mean? It's just that same thing. And I'm trying to think back because Nintendo definitely does this already with their mobile games. So I'm trying to think, where do they display it? And I think it's kind of like that, where like you scroll down and then underneath like all of the tiny text that says, I don't know, copyright info and stuff that nobody ever reads, that's where it shows your odds. But I can't remember because I always uninstall all those microtransaction games from my phone as soon as I try them out for the first time, because I work doing stupid Nintendo stuff all the time.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I have not played Dr. Mario World since I played it that first time. So
yeah.
I know what you mean there. It makes me sad that this is a baby step forward to try to addressing the problem, but I guess I should be happy they're making steps at all. So.
Yeah, we're really going to have to see how this affects the grand scheme of things. I'm interested, though, to hear from the Massive Monster guys on this, though. Do you think that perhaps in Never Give Up, the option of give up will just be pay 25 cents, then you can move on to the next level?
Damn it, it'll be more than 25 cents.
You have played the game. You've seen it.
Yeah, no, this definitely isn't like our kind of. We're not a fan of this stuff at all, really.
Yeah.
I just think it's not. It's kind of gambling, but you're never actually going to win any money back. Like, you're guaranteed not to win. So I think it's definitely a good step. I think anything to sort of be more open about it is a good step forward. But I mean, personally, I'm interested to see what it actually entails. I do think, like any games with loot boxes, I think microtransactions aren't too bad because, I mean, I don't like them, but it's clear that you're spending £2 or $2 to get this specific costume, whereas loot boxes, you don't know what you're getting. It is gambling in my eyes. I think any game with a loot box should have a warning at the start and also maybe even a mature rating, because I think kids who maybe don't understand exactly how much money they're spending. You hear stories of young children spending $500 on their parents' credit card. Like,
oh yeah.
That's actually something that I hadn't considered before, of attaching the loot box option to a rating of the game itself.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
because so many kids play gambling. It is gambling. Like, in my eyes, it is gambling. You're just getting digital items rather than money, right?
And gambling's regulated, so
by giving the statistics,
exactly,
it is showing it is gambling even more as well.
But I do think it'll probably, as you said, will be like a terms and conditions appears at the start of the screen, and it'll be in small print saying, legendary items you get a 0.5% chart, epic items 5% chart. So it'll be very kind of like disconnected with the actual items, and when you eventually get to the. I mean, this is pure speculation, but I don't think they're going to be like, crystal clear. And these, I don't know as well. Like Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, they're making money from these.
Exactly.
Systems, so I don't know how much they're going to wanna.
I kind of see it as well, like it's a way of them kind of standardizing it, which could actually make more developers inclined to use it, because before there might have been a bit of a risk to it because, how people see it. But if kind of Nintendo, Microsoft and Sony have said, well, if you want to do loot boxes, here's a good way to do it, it might actually enable more developers to put loot boxes in.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I hadn't considered that.
But has this all come from the Star Wars Battlefront game where people just refused to buy it because it had the sinister loot boxes? Is that where this is kind of movement has come from? Was that like a big...
It's an ongoing thing.
I feel like the quality of the controversy that went around the Battlefield drama kind of brought a lot to light, but I know that there was another game that came out, the Lord of the Rings one. What am I thinking of? Shadow of Mordor. That one was also notorious for having its loot boxes in there in the way that you would get upgrades for your characters.
Game too. That's what's so
exactly.
ridiculous.
Exactly. And literally there was nothing cosmetically aesthetic to what you were getting out of the loot boxes. It was simply just different runes, different weapons, different things like that.
You had
was
to like
essentially a
grow your
pay-to-win
army or
feature.
something like that in that game, and like by the end of the game, if you hadn't been spending microtransactions to grow your army, then you absolutely couldn't have done it with the level system that the game had built for you. Even with grinding or whatever, you would have to like grind excessively. So
Yeah.
I think that was a big problem with Shadow of Mordor. And then they eventually took those out, like, I don't know, a couple years after the game had launched, and then they had to rebalance the game because, of course, you have to rebalance it because you intentionally made your balance of your game super shitty to force people into the idea of, oh, well, maybe I'll just spend some money on the loot box. You know what I mean? That's the problem. It's ruining games. So, like, I'm super against, like, microtransactions and loot boxes in particular for those reasons. And sort of to go back, sorry to answer your question, I think in my opinion it's been a bit of a compounding issue that was really popularized by the Star Wars Battlefront 2, I think was the game, that really brought it to like the non-gaming public as well.
But that's kind of why I mentioned, because it's a great example of like consumers putting their foot down and going, this is not acceptable to us, and therefore we won't buy it. And then action happens. So I think it was a brilliant flashpoint. But Julian, you were saying some interesting things about mobile and how it's much more acceptable.
Yeah, I guess with mobile, I don't see them kind of getting anything like this soon, just because it is like they have like free games. I guess that's the only way they can kind of like exist, is by having like some of these microtransactions and loot boxes and stuff.
It is the business model.
Yeah, their business model is that, and they kind of, the way actually most of them work is that 90% of their revenue will come from some of these like whales that they call them, which is basically they'll just spend bank on the game, and then the other 10% is just like normal players that might give a couple dollars on the game. So it is just like an exploitive industry. It's probably not gonna change too soon with kind of like basic changes like this.
Exactly, yeah, I totally agree with you, because as we look into like who are these whales, right? Are they just like super rich people that just have all this expendable income? Like there are some people that are like that, but a lot of them are people actually that have gambling addictions, or perhaps their children with access to their parents' credit card or whatever. I remember reading an article where some kid spent, I think, £3,000 on one game and just drained their parents' bank account. And those are the whales, you know what I mean? And the big companies, they don't care. They're just making money hand over fist on all of this. And so why would they, regulate themselves is really the question that we as consumers have to ask ourselves. Like, of course, I think probably the ideal is that you don't want legislation to, regulate an industry, but if the industry can't regulate itself and they just continue to exploit people, that's when, personally, I think that legislation needs to step in.
And the developers know that basically loot box is a 4-letter word. Like, even for some of the newer ones that have been coming out, Borderlands 3 is a big example that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Randy Pitchford came out and said, "Hey, there's not going to be any loot boxes or anything like
he's
that."
a huge. Go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you just yet. Go ahead.
No, trust me, I'm in 100% agreement with you on this.
He's a human clown shoe.
He came out and said, "Hey, there's no microtransactions or anything or loot boxes or anything like that in this game." And then it comes out like 3 or 4 days later that
I think it was later that day.
Yeah, the publisher was like, "Oh yeah, we're totally having microtransactions in the game," and he's just like, "What are you gonna do?"
No, so what happens though is that IGN
music.
No, but IGN, they reported no, actually there are going to be microtransactions in the game. It's for cosmetic stuff or whatever, but there are going to be that in the game, contrary to what Randy Pitchford said. And then he made a gigantic baby piss argument on Twitter where he was like, "Why are you guys screwing me on this?" And just acted like a gigantic child. And then everyone was like, "No, we just reported what what the true facts are." It was not even a clickbait article or anything like that, which happens. It wasn't even
Randy
that.
Pitchford is not somebody who should be on the face of anything or the public face of anything.
Yeah, he shouldn't be on the face of the earth, in my opinion. Find another planet, Randy Pitchford.
He's not cool, that dude. Don't like him.
Yeah.
But going back to sort of what you were saying with developers and stuff, a lot of times this is mandated by publishers. I mean, just going over to you guys at Massive Monster, let's say that you had a different publisher for whatever reason. Say Activision Blizzard for whatever reason was publishing your game and they wanted your give up mechanic to be a microtransaction. You kind of have no say in that, right? You would have to be okay, well, either we lose all of our money or we have to go back through our contracts that we already signed and maybe have legal reparations. Developers have no say in this.
Yeah, I think that's often the case, especially if DICE, who made Battlefront, are owned by Activision. They don't really have a choice, and I think as well, a lot of the gamers maybe do take it out on the developers, but it is often completely out of their hands, and I'm sure most game developers, most game designers, all they really care about is making a fun game. And they care about the art of making games and making it fun. They don't want to tear their game apart and make it less fun, so people have to buy loot boxes to make it fun. I think it usually is just the higher ups at the publisher who are calling those shots. I urge anyone to sort of not take it out on the developers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're an indie studio, then and they're doing it, and you don't have a publisher, then it is them. But I think in general, it probably is the publishers.
I would totally agree with you on that. A lot of what I'm seeing is, the developers are the ones who are making the game. They are putting the hours in. They are putting their heart and energy into making something fun and enjoyable. It's a publisher's job to actually sell the game. So you've got these conflicting ideals of the developers want to make something fun and enjoyable, and the publishers want to make money.
But I'm glad that you brought that point up, though, about oftentimes, a rabid consumer will take their frustration out on a developer who had no say in something like this. Maybe even just somebody who is, God, I don't even know, the art director for the game. They don't have any design choices in the monetary system of the game, but they're a public name on the internet or whatever, then everybody goes after them. And I don't know, it's just a really terrible practice that a lot of crazy consumers will do. So I like to bring up those kinds of topics for our listeners who, maybe haven't thought about all of these different levels in the industry that is, video games. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
I think as well, as a developer, if you spend 3-4 years on this game and you probably working super long hours, I know we do, and then you finally release the game and the most you're hearing is someone screaming at you about microtransactions that you had absolutely no control over whatsoever. It's I can imagine that is hugely demoralizing.
Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic note to end this conversation.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I just, I super agreed with you, and I was like, well, that's a good place to end the conversation. No, it's not. Like, whoa, that is so depressing. Well, I'm so glad that Never Give Up does not have any surprise mechanics in it.
Not yet.
Oh my gosh.
Safely say we will not be putting any additional money mechanics in the game. Pay your money and then you get the game, and that's
transparent, simple, traditional. That's how it's always been done.
Yeah.
Call us old-fashioned, but you pay for your game and you get your game.
Right.
There you go.
So let's move on to our additional DLC segment where we recommend some media for our viewers. Galen, what do you have to recommend to, why is that viewers? Listeners. All right, well, Galen, what are you going to talk about?
So this week, I have a new channel that I found called Legal Eagle. As weird as it is, it's kind of fun because what he does is he's a practicing litigation lawyer who's been in the field for many a years and been on all different sides, from like pro bono cases to billion-dollar lawsuit type things. And what he does is he goes through media and does a critical evaluation of courtroom cases and things like that in shows, and says, okay, this is right, this is wrong, hey, this is really cool to kind of see. Some of my favorite that I've watched is the spilt cereal in the car episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when they just have a mock trial in a bar.
Okay.
And he does like a critical evaluation of everything, and we find out that the biggest joke of the episode is basically, this is a great example of how an actual arbitration would work if you worked with a third party for your ruling court instead of going to an actual courtroom itself. And then he also does one where it's on the final season finale of Seinfeld.
I gotta watch that one.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fun ones. Another one that I saw was the Frank Castle case from season 2 of Daredevil.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a really cool stuff, and it's a really interesting take to get his take on the drama versus what's accurate versus what's not accurate. So Legal Eagle, definitely recommend checking them out.
Awesome. So then for me, I am going to recommend a brand new game that just came out this past week on the Nintendo Switch. It's called PictoQuest. It is a video game made by NanoPico, which is a huge team of 3 people from France. This is pretty cheap. It's around $8-ish, I think, in the US eShop, but it's on other eShops as well. This is a Picross game meets light RPG game. It has way more charm and polish than it has any reason having. It has tons of little extra details where there doesn't need to be any. Like when you solve a puzzle, the pixel image animates with several frames of animation, not just 1 or 2. And the managing of monster battles while you're trying to solve Picross puzzles is so much fun, and it adds this extra layer that I did not even know that I needed in my Picross games. And the music too is super good. I forgot, the music is a total bop, and you can switch the tracks around. It's just the easiest $8 I've ever spent in my entire life, and it's right up there with my favorite indie games on the Nintendo Switch, so I had to talk about it for just a second. And then the guys from Massive Monster, I'm assuming that you're going to be recommending a little game that's coming out next week on the eShop, maybe?
Maybe we will. Yeah, I'd like to recommend a game called Never Give Up, coming out August 13th. I think you guys will really like it. We hope you'll play it. We've heard it's good. You've heard us talking about it, how passionate we are about it. We've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over a lot of years, probably longer than we'd like to admit. But yeah, we're super proud of it. We can't wait to have it out there. We're honored it's on the Switch. And we really, really hope you guys check it out. And thanks for listening to us talk about it so much. And thank to you guys for having us on and allowing us to have this platform to talk about this game.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. You guys are a blast to have on. This isn't the end of the show yet, but you guys are welcome back anytime. So let's move on to our listener mail segment. if
Listen to
you...
mail.
Oh, Jesus, there it is.
Hey, I haven't done that in a while.
You do it every episode.
But yeah, but it's been a week since the last episode.
Oh
so
my God.
personally, like in my life, I haven't done that in a while.
Oh my God. You should wake up every morning and like in the hopes of jinxing that somebody will send you like a mail in the morning, you should like wake up with that jingle in your heart.
I do actually say it every time I see one actually pop up on my phone. So
So if you want to make Galen spontaneously break into song, you can send us an email at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. Galen, where would they send the email?
send that email to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
And if you did, Galen might sing a song and then your email on the podcast being read out loud would sound a little something like this.
It would sound a little bit like this email sent from Jay today.
What up, Jay?
So, hey, Jay.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going? So, Jay, not that Jay, Jay writes in, "Hello again. I am still an avid listener, and I really enjoy the show. I wrote a few months back about your activity logs in the 3DS and what games you play the most. I really enjoyed the conversation, and it's fun to revisit old memories of such a great handheld. My question for you this week is, do you have any games left in your 3DS backlog, and do you foresee yourselves playing them anytime soon? For me, I have Phoenix Wright vs. Professor Layton, Phoenix Wright Spirit of Justice, and the massive time sink that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. After these games, I feel like I can officially retire my 3DS, but at the rate these new Switch games are coming out, my 3DS may be in limbo for a while. Thanks for the email, Jay."
Thank you, Jay. Love to hear from you as always.
No problem.
So Oni, do you have any 3DS backlogged games that you need to get around to playing?
My God, I totally do. They're like collecting under my desk like dust. So for me, it's basically just like a bajillion RPGs because that's like my favorite genre. But of course, that means that you have to spend a lot of different time on all these different games, and then you just end up building up all these games, especially as somebody in their 30s that has a job and doesn't have time for video games so much these days. So I definitely have to play Bravely Default Second Layer. I loved the first one so much. I recommended it to our last listener last week. I still have to play the second one. Haven't even touched it yet, so that's a damn shame. Then, of course, there are the trifecta, the holy trinity of Shin Megami Tensei games on Nintendo 3DS. There's Strange Journey, Shin Megami Tensei 4, and then Persona Q. And Persona Q 2. Holy crap, that's 4 games.
The list is growing.
Yeah, it grows as I speak about it. And then a game that will never ever leave my 3DS ever is Final Fantasy Theatrhythm Curtain Call. That game is just like crack. It's so addictive. The music in that series is just brilliant, and so just sitting there and like using the stylus to like touch little things and do the my God, Galen, help me out here. What's the genre called?
Of which one?
The music genre.
I think it's just like a rhythm game.
Rhythm game. Thank you. That's what I'm
Is that
talking
what you're
about.
looking for?
Oh my God, it's in the title, for Christ's sake. Clearly, I love this game so much. So, Galen, how about you? I'm assuming you have lots of Phoenix Wright?
Actually, I only have 2. I have Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. I am on the very last case, and then got like, I think halfway through the first day, and then put it down and didn't go back to it. So, I need to finish that one up. I definitely need to go back and do Spirit of Justice. That is the only Phoenix Wright game I have not played at all. So...
Sounds like a fake gamer to me.
Well, just wait. Yeah, a lot of the games that are on my list are games that I've played and then got distracted by another game and never went back to it, which seems really weird considering it's a portable console that I can just take around with me. But Luigi's Mansion 2, I've never beaten it. Like, it's sitting there. I played it. haven't beaten it yet. I need to do that.
Man, I gave up on that one. Like, it just didn't hook me like the first game did.
Yeah. Well, and I think around that time is when my L and R buttons on my first 3DS were starting to go out on me. So it got really frustrating when I was trying to like do some of the advanced moves in the game, and I couldn't. I had to like smash the button down just to get it to hopefully go. So that might have been a contributing factor now that I think about it.
Good thing you didn't have Never Give Up on your 3DS and you were mashing the buttons there.
No, see, that's the weird one. Like, Never Give Up would be something that I would play until it was done.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Well, the game's insulting me saying I can't do it. I need to prove it wrong.
See, that's why I insult you regularly. I have to break you down and then build you back up from scratch. I'm a good friend.
It's motivating.
Yeah.
You know what? You say motivating, I say brainwashing. You know what? There's an in-between somewhere in there. We'll just stick with that.
We've done it for who knows how many years by now.
Exactly. Hail Hydra. Anyway. Let's see. What else do I have on my list? I'm right there with you on Bravely Default 2. And also the first one. I've never played that. Either of them.
Sounds like a fake gamer.
I need to finish Link Between In Between Worlds, because I think I have 2 dungeons left, and again, just set it down. So that's what most of my list is. It's just games that I need to like put in the last couple of hours to just kind of blitz through it.
So what is coming up? What is coming out on NintendoEverything.com? We've got a bunch of things that I forgot about, and then some things that I remember. Of the things that I remember, I know that we have the... Shut up, Galen. We have the big interview that I conducted with Yacht Club Games coming out pretty soon. If not out already, I don't actually know when it's scheduled, but it's really soon. We also have a review for DC Universe Online coming out as well. That's a big one. And then a whole bunch of other things I don't remember. So just check out the website. It's all there. Lots of good content coming out. NintendoEverything.com. You can stay connected to us on Twitter at NinEverything. We also have our YouTube, which is youtube.com/NinEverything. And then we also have the lovely guest here from Massive Monster. Where can everybody find you on all the social media?
So you can follow us on Twitter at Massive Monster with an S at the end. Massive Monster with an S at the end. And you can follow us on Facebook, and we also have a Discord channel if you want to hop in there, which would be great to get some more people. If you want to play Never Give Up and kind of compare speedrunning times and learn tricks from other people, you can kind of talk about the game. That'd be awesome too.
That's great. You should send me that Discord link, and then I can put it in the description of the episode if you guys would like.
Sweet. Fantastic. Yeah, will do.
Oni, we should get a Discord together now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm busy, man. I got businessman. You can find me being a businessman, I guess. I don't know, that's a terrible segue. On my Twitter, at Oni_Dino. And then I take business pictures and put them on my business Instagram. That's really bad. At Oni__Dino.
Isn't that just LinkedIn?
And then I also run an impromptu YouTube that I just started up recently with my husband. You can find that on YouTube. It's Game Married, GAYME Married. And then we have a Twitter also. It's basically a Twitter bot, and then sometimes I apologize when we don't have a video.
I forgot that I was supposed to be calling you Toady Snark the entire episode.
Speaking of useless, Galen, where can they find you on the internet?
If you want to see me post pictures of my starter Pokemon Yamper, you can follow me on Twitter at Mobius087.
No Instagram? What's going on there?
I mean, the Instagram, it's there. It's true_Mobius. I haven't posted anything in like a week and a half, so...
You're not selling it!
That's why I didn't bring it up. You know, sell your strengths.
Listen, do not go into marketing for
corgis.
Massive Monster over there.
You're hired.
You say hired or fired. I'm acceptable, or I'm accepting either
you're
one.
hired, but then now you're fired.
Nice, awesome. I'm putting it on my LinkedIn.
So, gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us on the podcast to talk about your game, Never Give Up. Do one more plug for the listeners at home playing the bingo game. When is it coming out? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so Never Give Up is out August 13th, and it is $15. And it's really good fun. It is the best game of the year, and you're going to love it.
Awesome.
It's Julian's game of the year, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's been really fun. It's been great to talk to you guys, talk about Never Give Up and Pokemon and all the other cool stuff, and loot boxes especially.
Oh, I'll talk about that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been wicked. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I am so excited to talk a bit more at length about Never Give Up once it gets in the public's hands too, and then once it gets in Galen's hands too. We'll talk about it more next podcast, I'm sure.
I'm definitely going to be picking up this game, so.
And whether the game makes fun of him or not, I'll make fun of him, so don't worry about that, guys.
Oh, the game will make fun of
I
it.
would rather have Egoraptor make fun of me over you. Like, it's just kind of nice to change up that pace every once in a while.
Is there anything else that you guys want to say, or?
Go and say something nice to the Ooblet developers.
So then, Galen, another episode in the bank, 41. We're really we're packing it in there.
We're trugging along on this.
So I wonder what excellent guests we will have next week for the listeners. What other stuff have we been working on this week? You're gonna have to stay tuned for next week in order to find out what great stuff is coming out. Right, Galen?
I'll be there.
Well, did you just scare him away? Jesus.
I love it.
So, Massive Monster, thank you so much for joining us. And Galen, tell the folks what do we do? How do we end this show? Oh my God. Stay tuned.
Everything
Yeah. For everything for Christ. Stay tuned next week.
No, that's a different podcast.
That's for everything Christ. Oh Jesus. Oh God. Why is every exclamation that we say like a religious? Anyway, stay tuned next week for everything Nintendo.
Stay tuned to Nintendo everything.
Oh God. Thanks, Massive Monster. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks.